What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActiveMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And in January, Netflix released a movie that doesn't feel like a January movie, which had me a little concerned. Uh, this is The Rip. We've got, first of all, let's go. I'm blind. So we'll talk about audio description right off the bat. It's International Digital Center, written by Valerie Hunter, narrated by Jamie Lemchek. I liked the audio description here. There's a lot of, I'm gonna call it sleight of hand. There's a lot of sleight of hand at play here, a lot of bamboozlement that goes on. So they have to be very specific in what they describe. But yeah, it's very good. I love everything Jamie does generally as a narrator, and Valerie did a nice job writing the script. So there we go. We talked about that, and it stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, uh, Academy Award winners reteaming. That's the draw in of itself, is to see these two reteaming together on screen. If that wasn't enough for you, we've also got Academy Award nominee Stephen Yeun, soon to be Academy Award nominee Tiana Taylor, because I cannot imagine she doesn't get nominated for one battle after another. I mean, just, are you kidding me? She's at bare minimum, she's now a Golden Globe winner as of my review. I'm reviewing this a little bit before the nominations. It's going to become old real soon, and then people are going to be like, "Well, she got the nomination. What are you talking about?" Be like, "Look at the post date. It's a little bit before the Oscar nominations. I'm sorry." Sasha Kaye is here. Academy Award nominee Catalina Sandino Moreno, whose career has been resurging, and I'm loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. And Scott Adkins is here. So Kyle Chandler as well, by the way, is here. We also have Kyle Chandler. And this is written and directed by Joe Carnahan. Solid choice. Smoking Aces. I'm still waiting for Boss Level 2. That was supposed to be getting a sequel. They ordered one. What happened to it? I don't know. I liked Boss Level, the first one. Um, but yeah, he's done a bunch of different things. I really like his film, and I kind of want this to be a little bit more like that, but he has a 2002 film Narc with Jason Patric and Ray Liotta that is really underappreciated and undervalued, and I think is a lot better than like, I feel like it has been lost to the sands of time, you know? But if you get a chance to check out Narc, I have no idea if it has audio description. I'm going to assume no. Um, but I did enjoy that. So Carnahan is a solid director. He's not necessarily a home run every time type of guy, but he generally gets on base. You know what I'm saying? Like, he generally gets on base. Like, even the A Team was entertaining. Is it like a home run? No, but it was entertaining. So, The Rip. Netflix has cast this into January. Much like they kind of abandoned Kate Winslet's directorial debut, Goodbye June, at the end of their awards consideration phase, right at Christmas. Like, I wonder if anybody will notice this film. These are some top tier talent, people. I don't know why these films are getting abandoned. Goodbye June was okay. I mean, it wasn't great, but I would have appreciated if more people had seen the film so they could bask in the glow of Helen Mirren and Timothy Spall, who were quite lovely in that film. This film is a cop thriller suspense. I feel like suspense is like the diet version of thriller. Suspense. Crime suspense. Um, about a rip. And what is a rip, you're asking yourself? I know. I hear it. It's you've been screaming at your phone screen the whole time. Like, so a rip is slang that the cops are using for getting a haul from something that is hidden inside of a house. Now, specifically, Damon's team is tasked with finding money, and they have a dog whose job it is to sniff out money. So, like large quantities of money. I didn't know this was a thing, but because it's not really illegal to possess money. But I guess when you find illegal activity happening, then maybe I didn't quite understand like the concept of what it is that they're doing because they enter this house supposedly based on a Crime Stoppers tip, right? There's no crime, and the only thing they do is they find money. Is that a crime? People hide money under like their mattress and stuff. Like, I mean, granted, they find a lot of money, but I'm unaware of what crime this is. Oh, so um, I was a little confused, and from the get go, I was it felt like I needed more to be explained to me about how, why, when, where, what from the get go. But I was like, okay, Joe, I will join you on this ride of ridiculousness because you have an exceptional cast here, all underutilized, by the way. Um, Damon has the most to do because he's playing the potentially dirty lead. So is he conniving? Is he smart? Is he the bad guy? Is he going to shoot you in the back? What is he? He's very, like, ooh. And I'll say to all casting agents in Hollywood, I don't know that Damon is your best bet for villains. He works best when we don't use him a lot. So, um, he's generally a nice guy and he works really well in good guy roles. And he's quite relatable that way. Sometimes he gets overplayed into bad guy roles and it doesn't always work. Yes, it worked for The Departed, and I would say Interstellar, but I don't know that we don't need this all the time. He's not exceptionally good at being a bad guy. So I wasn't 100% on board with what was happening here, and I kept trying to look for where this film was headed. I kind of guessed about half of where it was headed, kind of twisting around. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it for you. But where the film goes, I guess half the twist. So I'll say that. Um anyway, so Ben Affleck is the second lead here, and he's super suspicious of Matt Damon. And he can pick up on Damon's, uh, sneakiness, and he's pretty vocal about it. And is that going to be a problem for these two? Stephen Yeun plays Mike. Affleck is Sarge. Damon is like Dean or something like that. Dane, something, I don't know. Uh, Bane. I lived in the darkness. From darkness I came to steal the money from the walls of this house. Bane! Subscribe. Tiana Taylor is again underutilized. We're seeing a lot of casting for Tiana Taylor from people who didn't realize Tiana Taylor was going to be in One Battle After. Like, she's on All's Fair. She has like nothing to do. And then she's in this and she really doesn't have much to do here. I've seen Sasha in some other things before. Obviously the most rising talent of everybody in the cast. Again, Catalina is lovely, and I'm glad she's getting more roles. My, I think it's either my biggest or second biggest criticism of Ballerina was I didn't have enough Catalina Sandino Moreno in it. I'm loving her on From. I think she's exceptional, and the fact that we're starting to see more and more from her, considering Maria Full of Grace was like 20 years ago, and she kind of faded away for a while there. I'm glad we have rediscovered her. So a lovely actress. And then Scott Adkins and Kyle Chandler just are not in really that much of the movie for me to make too much of a comment about them. So, um, yeah, I I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, and I'm debating about whether or not it's good. Is it good enough? Did it do enough? Um, and I think a lot of questions are answered in the how much the twist will pay off for you. I think if you're patient and you sit through the whole 2 hours, you'll know it really is one of those films where it's like, did it redeem itself? Because I don't know that the film is inherently interesting enough for like the first half of it to really keep you engaged. It kind of is predictable in its pacing and feels kind of slow, and I'm not really sure anything was well supported. It feels somewhat oddly like a low budget movie where they're trapped inside this house because they had this rip and they're trying to like count it. And for some reason, we're in this house, but it feels like the kind of film where they should be like running through streets like Heat, like just like, why are we in this house all the time? Yeah, this feels like a kind of like, it feels a very limited movie. That was one of the things that I had. I mean, they try to reckon with that and answer it at the end, but when you think of like other cop dramas, they don't really confine themselves, and this feels very confined. And even in Joe Carnahan's career, I mean, I guess he's done somewhat confined films before, like Smokin' Aces kind of just takes place within this hotel, but it still doesn't feel confined. It feels like they go all over the hotel. They don't just stay in one place. And this house is kind of small. It's kind of limiting. Um, and they do go outside from time to time. And they're trying to figure out. There's a threatening phone call that they get that makes them wonder, like, okay, well, so maybe this money belongs to someone else and they know about it, but how do they know about it? That kind of stuff. So that's the mystery and the twist and everything that goes along with that. I don't know. I felt like it needed more action to it. I felt like it was kind of slow and it needed a little bit more. It has bursts. Like it has moments where there's like some gunfire and some stuff happens and, you know, life. But I don't know that that's a solid review, but I just think every film that's done remotely like this thing has done it better before. And when you start seeing the talent involved and you realize that Netflix throws money at projects, I mean, they threw like, well, like 250 million at, or 300, or I don't even know how much at, the Deep State. What was that movie from us? I can't even remember it anymore with Millie Bobby Brown. Electric State. That film was so expensive. And this this does not inherently feel like the kind of movie that needs $100 million, but it feels like the kind of movie that if you effectively give it 50 to $75 million, it should be interesting. I don't know what the budget is, and I'm scared to look because if I hear the budget for this film is like $150 million, I'm gonna assume Ben Affleck and Matt Damon both got paid 50 to be in it. And then like everybody else got paydays and they actually had about 5 million to shoot the movie. It just isn't really that bombastic of a movie. And Joe Carnahan does bombastic very well. Even when forced to do small, like in Narc, when he has a lower budget, I thought Narc was more interesting. I thought he held the tension better. This just really didn't work for me on its totality. I will say that my interest was peaked in the second half of the film and it started to redeem itself. But my biggest question for me while that was happening was, is this enough? And after sleeping on it, I don't think it was. I don't think, I don't think the twist was so shocking and engaging and mind blowing that it's like it makes up for the whole slow first half of the film, you know? And to have such a wonderfully talented cast and to not really know how to use them properly. There's a lot of tension that's set up, but it just never really feels like it pays off. Everything here is just kind of like it feels like a Netflix movie. And I hate to say that because I'm the first person who will fight for a Netflix movie and say, okay, I don't think that's fair because it just depends on how you use the money and the budget. But the problem is, I think Netflix doesn't really test their films. They don't really give feedback. So Joe Carnahan is left a little bit to his devices, whereas if he works for a studio, they're going to run test screenings, they're going to send him back to make cuts. Somebody's going to be watching. I don't think Netflix does that. I've never felt that from their films. They always feel like they just take the first cut of the film from the director and send it out, which is why films always feel like they're a little imperfect, um, in large part. And the only people who truly benefit from it are the real big auteurs. And I like Joe Carnahan. I don't he's not like, I'm gonna use the term boss level since he directed a movie called Boss Level. He's not a Spielberg, Scorsese, or Del Toro, who, give Del Toro the money to make Frankenstein and leave him alone in Pinocchio. I mean, he's proven that the Netflix model for him works really well because he doesn't need to be babysat. And Scorsese proved that with Irishman, and some other directors will, as well, use the space that is given to them and the budgets that are given to them. I think this revealed a little bit to me that Joe Carnahan has benefited, at least, if not from feedback, from test screenings, from being told to cut something, whatever. There's something in the process that I think gets lost with Netflix films, and I think it's affected this film because I don't think this isn't in completely unsalvageable film, but it's a film that just doesn't work. It's a film full of possibilities, namely because you I mean you went and got one of the best casts of the year. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, in terms of talent, it's just like this film is like exploding with talent. It's just this film should be way better than it is. And I can't help but wonder if Ben Affleck had directed this and this was more like The Town, wouldn't this be better? I think so. Um, I wonder if Ben Affleck would benefit from the model of Netflix if Netflix had thrown the money at him and told him to direct the rip. Would it have been better? Because there's so many times here where I kept reflecting to films like The Town, and The Town was one of them. I was like, yeah, The Town. Thinking about the scene where they steal the money and they're running through the streets and everything in there. Affleck got some great scenes out of The Town. And I'm sure he got it with feedback. I'm sure he got um offered that kind of stuff too. So I don't know, this just didn't work for me. Which is sad because I was actually somewhat looking forward to a reteaming of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I don't think they're bad in this, but there's something to be said about just not supporting anybody. And so the actors feel lackluster, but they're not actually giving bad performances. Um, Damon is probably having to do the most here because he's trying to sell you on the possibility of the fact that he could be a good or a bad cop, that he's morally questionable at the very least. But like, I feel like Stephen Yeun was lost. Tiana Taylor's wasted. Catalina Sandino Moreno has a little bit to do, but most of her stuff is just like it's honestly still kind of reserved considering like what she's been doing in From. Nothing really rises to the occasion of the cast. These people could have all been like lesser, more rising talent people, more like on Sasha Calle's level, and the world would not have noticed, and it would have felt a little bit more akin to the quality of the film. I think when you invite the level of talent into your film that has happened here, and it still doesn't rise to the occasion, you have no one to blame but yourself. And the fact that this is written and directed by Joe Carnahan, I like his stuff, but he obviously needs feedback. He obviously needs another voice in the room coming from somewhere. He needs test screenings to tell him that works or that doesn't work. Do that, don't do that. I thought the first half of the film was slow. Even though they try to build the tension, I kept wondering if the film was gonna like just explode with like action at any moment, but it had these little like I don't know, uh almost like arrhythmia, like film arrhythmias. where it was like, oh, oh, that was, we almost got exciting again. Um, but yeah, I will say that the twist is kind of interesting. It's kind of a good twist. It's also kind of a stupid twist. C'est la vie. Like I have a problem with the ending of the film, but whatever. I feel like the film also didn't do a good enough job of explaining why we have a team of people whose sole job it is to find money in buildings and not drugs. The dog does. He even says the dog doesn't sniff for drugs. He's not a multi-purpose dog. He only sniffs. There's such a demand in Hialeah for a money sniffing dog. So I don't get it. I don't understand it. Um, and then it never really grabbed me and brought me in the way that I really wanted it to. I really wanted it to, guys. I remember when this one was announced, I was like, oh my God, Damon and Affleck are, don't, it's up Netflix, don't do it. But if we're not going to offer directors feedback and please start giving these people test screenings. I don't feel like they do. I don't feel like these people ever get test screenings. The weird thing is that like you have Zack Snyder, right, with his Rebel Moon shit, and he's like, well, I have a PG-13 cut and then an R cut, like an unrated. Like, come on now. Netflix doesn't give a crap about ratings. Those Snyder cuts are forced. That, there's not even they they released Blonde as NC-17. Like they don't care what your rating is. But yeah, we have 4 versions of Rebel Moon. Like what? Well, 4 individual. Like you can watch the Rebel Moon 1 and 2 regular, and then Rebel 1 and 2 extended Snyder cut. There should have just been a Snyder cut from the beginning. The idea that Netflix gave him the kind of feedback that he says that no. I, After having watched over a decade of Netflix films, it's been really clear to me that Netflix does not give directors feedback and does not care and does not draw them into directions and say, oh, we need this from you, or oh, could you change this, or oh, hey, our test audience didn't like this, or maybe a little bit more of this, or they really responded to this character. Not the kind of things that you would normally get doesn't happen. So it's all just a gamble, and sometimes talent rises. It does rise to the top. I'm not saying that there aren't excellent, amazing, some of my favorite films are Netflix films. In the last, since Netflix started releasing films, there's some truly terrific films that are on their streaming service. But it's a gamble when you put the deck solely in somebody's hands and say go. And I think Joe Carnahan dropped the ball on this one. Sorry. I'm gonna give The Rip a 5.3 out of 10. Yeah, I'm not fresh on this. I'm rotten. I don't think it's an irredeemable film. It's a film that needed a second pass though, and I don't think it got it. It would have been nice if Damon and Affleck had been able to see the movie and give feedback at least, because I feel like I can't imagine they watched this and were like, yeah, oh yeah, this is on the level of quality that we're used to. If so, then I don't know. I just anyway, The Rip. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.